Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to the top 4 from the Greenwood, Indiana City Championship, Day 2 of the Indianapolis City Championship Mini Marathon. Now, on the first day we have Stephen Clark on the right. He actually finished second to Jason Kozinski, and he's back once again in the top 4 of this City Championship against Scott Lawler, a player I don't know too much about, but he is doing very well in this tournament. I believe he is a player from Indiana, and we'll see what happens in this matchup. We have a handshake here. Looks like these guys are ready to get started, and it should be a good matchup here in the top 4. So just to give you an idea of what these two guys are playing, Steven is using a Landorus EX, Mewtwo EX, and Bouffalant deck. That's what he used the first day as well. Basically just aims to beat down your opponent as fast as possible. Start off strong with Landorus EX using just Hammerhead or just Mewtwo X-balling. And then you also have Bouffalant at your disposal as well, which is good against EX Pokemon. And Scott will be using a Tornadus EX, Ho-Oh EX deck. It's focused around the Tornadus EX very heavily with the Spartia City Gym that gives colorless Pokemon plus 20 hit points, which is very nice. Gives Tornadus EX 190 hit points, which makes it very difficult to deal with. And he'll also play Ho-Oh for the Rebirth ability, which allows him to kind of accelerate energy, and then he can use Energy Switch to power up his other Pokemon. I believe he plays Super Scoop Up as well, so that could play a big role in this matchup, but when you got Mewtwo involved, when you got N involved, anything goes, and we will see what goes on in this matchup. Now, it looks like Steven's going to put an Eviolite and a Fighting onto his Mewtwo, and he's just going to play a Skyla, and then grab a Juniper. So, it's not going to be too quick of a start, but he's going to get an energy on the Mewtwo, and the Eviolite is nice as well. And he will have that Juniper for next turn, so he should be okay. But no early pressure, no turn 1 X-Ball for 40, which is kind of devastating for a lot of decks. Really puts on a lot of pressure, forces you to really get your own attacker out really quickly, or else Mewtwo is going to start just kind of beating up your stuff. So we'll see how Scott can respond to this. Yeah, not pressure, but Steven's made his intentions very clear. He put down 2 Mewtwo's and he's saying, you know what, I don't mind just going to war. Let's do it. If you want to just X-Ball all day, I'm fine with that. Let's go. So what's Scott going to do to respond to this? It looks like he has a handful of nothing but his Juniper. And he has to discard, 2 double colorless, 2 super scoop up, a catcher, a switch, and I couldn't see the last card there. If that was a tool scrapper, he should have played that, but I don't know if it was or not. But yeah, that is an ugly, ugly Juniper there. No basic energy to even put in the discard pile. He really wasn't able to play any of those cards. He could have played a catcher. He decided not to. But yeah, still just not pretty at all. But he will get a Tornadus EX down with a Grass Energy. And he'll probably have to just pass the turn. So these two very aggressive decks, they're both going to result in a pass here for the first turn, which can happen. And he actually decides to catcher after discarding one, so that was an interesting move. Not sure why he didn't just do that in the first place, but I guess I don't know what he was going for. It's really unlikely that he would get a Mewtwo knockout on a Mewtwo that just has 1 energy and an Eviolite on it, but who knows. Now Steven, he is playing a Plus Power and a Juniper. This is a deck, the one that he uses that plays actually 4 Plus Power, I think. And then he also uses Recycle. So he's got all sorts of crazy stuff going on with his deck. And looks like he's just going to X-Ball for 50 with that Plus Power. Not the greatest thing in the world, it could be a lot better for him. Terrakion doesn't really care about being X-Balled for 50. He's got 130 hit points. Only gives up 1 prize, which is very nice. It's not an EX, which of course would give up 2 prizes. And what's going to happen is there's 2 energy on that Mewtwo already. That opens it up for Scott here to get his own Mewtwo in X-Ball. I'm not sure how many Mewtwo's he actually plays. The count can vary. Looks like his version focuses more on Tornadus EX than Mewtwo. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I guess we'll find out. Now he's got a switch. He's going to drop that into the discard pile that Steven is taking a look at. And he's probably going to Juniper away that fighting, because he can get the Ho-Oh in the discard pile as well. He might decide to catcher out the Mewtwo on the bench, which I would like. It'll force Steven to have either a double colorless or a switch if he wants to keep attacking. But nope, he decides to just Juniper and go for a double colorless, and oh, he gets one. That's very nice. And he gets an Ultra Ball with a Ho-Oh and some more energy in hand, so things looking alright for Scott after that rough Juniper at the start. That's his third double colorless that's going to be put into play already, which is not that great for him. As the game goes on, he might be having some trouble with that, but for the time being, he is A-okay. No worries at all, and he should be alright. Now, let's see. Looks like we got an Ultra Ball, discarding Ho-Oh and a Fire. Let's see what he goes for here. Looks like he could just grab another Tornadus EX. Looks like he only has one Mewtwo in his deck, which is strange to see. You know, usually when you play this many double colorless, you have tons of Mewtwo, just because Mewtwo is such a strong attacker. But Scott, he's opting to go Tornadus EX instead because, hey, what knocks out Tornadus in one hit? Yeah, Lightning Pokemon, which really don't get used that often anymore. Even in electric decks, they use Rayquaza EX or just Mewtwo instead. So it's like Tornadus EX, huh? Especially when you got the Espiritu City Gym out there, he doesn't really get knocked out in one hit. So that's why we're seeing him use that instead of Mewtwo. It's an interesting concept. But we're going to see a Power Blast here. It's just going to do 80 damage because of that Eviolite. And next turn, Scott's going to need to draw a Tool Scrapper or something to get rid of that Eviolite, or a Plus Power if he plays it, to finish off that Mewtwo, because otherwise it's going to do 80 damage twice, which will not be enough for a knockout. Now, he did get Tails for the Power Blast, so he did have to discard an energy. Looks like they are making sure he rolls a different color die for the next one. You are required to roll a die that's a different color than the one used for damage, just to avoid confusion. So that's why they have that clarification there, just in case, you know, like one of the dice bumps into your damage counter die and you don't know which one's which. That can be a problem. So we do see Steven Ultra Balls for a Bouffalant, which is actually very good against Tornadus EX. There's no way Tornadus EX will ever knock out Bouffalant in one hit. That's just not going to happen. And Bouffalant, you can trade 2-hit knockouts with it, but it only gives up one prize. Goldbreaker is a great attack against, well, every EX, obviously. The only EX that does pretty well against Bouffalant is Mewtwo, just because he can knock it out in one hit still. The fighting EXs can be good as well, but for the most part, Bouffalant is very strong against EX Pokemon. But let's see here. It looked like Steven didn't have any energy to attach for the turn, which is a bummer. He really needs to keep up with energy attachments if he wants to, you know, keep up in this game. We do see Scott Juniper away a fighting and a dark energy. So, looks like he was going for something. Not sure what exactly. But he has an Ultra Ball. He has the Espiritu City Gym, Spertia, I don't know how to say that. Well, I'll just change it throughout, you know, the game. We have an Ultra Ball. He's going to be discarding a fighting, and couldn't see the other card. Maybe a Charon. Can't really see. But he grabs a Mewtwo. So he is ready to go to war here. He's got a Super Scoop Up in his hand as well. So he could get a heads on that and then kind of preserve that double colorless and also preserve the Tornadus. This is a huge, huge flip. So here we go. We need a heads here from Scott, otherwise this is going to be a big waste of resources. And wow, what a big flip there. Cannot stress that enough. If he didn't get heads there, he would have lost 2 more double colorless. That would have been all 4 gone. But now, he's still got 1 left. I assume that this Mewtwo is getting knocked out this turn, since Steven plays so many plus powers and stuff. Yeah. And he's going to Juniper And he needs a double colorless. He does not have one yet. Does he draw it? No. Wow. So Scott, he survives, and this is just how fragile Mewtwo Wars can be. It looked like it was just easy. I'm going to get a double colorless, and I'm going to X-Ball you, and I'll be fine. But just like that, you know, Steven's in some trouble. He's down 2 prizes. Now, he's not going to get knocked out this turn. There's not really any chance of that happening. But it's going to be trouble. He's going to get hit by this Mewtwo for at least 60 damage. And Scott will have an army of Tornadus EXs behind this. He's going to try a Rebirth and gets a Tails. He's going to try the other Rebirth. If he gets heads, you can get a Ho-Oh back from his discard pile with 3 different types of energy. It's very nice. And he will do that. Gets a Fighting, Fire, and Grass. And looks like we're having a little bit of a dispute there. Not sure what that's about, but it's okay. And we'll see what he decides to do here. Now, I guess he could Energy Switch, double colorless, and then X-Ball for 180, because that would be 5 energy. That would be enough for a knockout. He would go down to 2 prizes. That would be a huge play. It would just force Steven to have a double colorless next turn, or else he pretty much loses the game. But then if Steven does have that double colorless, he can just get a knockout on the Mewtwo, and he'll be in okay shape. Still, I think this is probably the right play for Scott. Just kind of go for it. You'll be up 4 prizes, and you'll have that Ho-Oh there as backup, no matter what. You know, it's not the greatest attacker in the world, but it can get the job done when you need to. And there we go. There's the 4th double colorless from Scott. He's all 4. There's 2 in the discard pile, 2 in that Mewtwo. And now, if you're Steven, alright, he's going to end. And he's got to draw a double colorless here. If he does not, oh, he just loses the game. That's pretty much all there is to it. If he doesn't draw it, he is done for. But if he does, this game will go on. This is not over yet. So we're going to see if he does draw one or not. And no! But he does draw an Energy Switch. Okay. So he can Energy Switch the Fighting to his Mewtwo and play another one. So he's actually fine still. He will survive the turn. Maybe. Depending on if Scott has another Mewtwo. I didn't see him get one off his prizes, and I didn't see one off his deck earlier, so I don't think he actually plays anymore. But we'll find out as the game goes on. We do have a Juniper for 7. And now this is just going to be a struggle for Scott to get his last couple prizes. And let's see. He gets 2 energy switches. Those are big. He can Rainbow Burn this turn for 60. I don't see any Tool Scrappers or anything like that. I don't know if he plays those. If he does, it would be nice to have. Just to get rid of that Eviolite at some point. Otherwise, it's going to be a 3-hit knockout on that Mewtwo, which is not good. So we see another Rebirth. He's going to get a Fighting, Dark, and Grass. And we'll see what he decides to attack with. Could be Ho-Oh. He does not have... Well, he could actually double Energy Switch to his Tornadus EX if he really wants to. Or he could just do 1 and then blow through for 40. That's an option. But no, he's just going to go for it. He's going to double Energy Switch and go for the Power Blast for 80. This is, he's kind of blowing all his resources at one point, but it's a high risk, high reward kind of a play. You know, he's down, man, he's down 3 energy switches, all 4 double colorless. And he's kind of leaving the door open for Steven to come back here. Now, it's still going to be tough, don't get me wrong, but it certainly can happen. What is Steven going to decide to do here? He puts a double colorless on his Bouffalant. I like that. And there's an N. So this is going to make things tough for Scott. He has gone through a lot of supporters as well. In fact, probably most of the ones he has left are N, which is not going to help him in this situation where he only gets to draw 2. But he draws a Catcher and a Switch. Those are probably 2 of the best cards he could have drawn. You know, if Steven attacks with his Mewtwo, he's going to get hit by another Power Blast. And then next turn all it takes is a Catcher for the win. if Scott can power up another attacker. That's really all this comes down to. Can Scott pull this one off? This Mewtwo is going to survive by 10 hit points thanks to that Eviolite. Power Blast only does 80 when there's an Eviolite. So it'll hit him up to 160 damage. And Scott, you know, he has the catcher in hand, but there are no more Ho-Oh EXs in the discard pile. There's nothing he can really do to attack anytime soon. There's 4 double colorless all gone. So he could be seeing just a game where Scott runs out of resources and just loses. We do see the Power Blast onto the Mewtwo. And now, what's Steven going to decide to do? I mean, he's got the Bouffalant back there. He could just retreat and attack with that. That would probably be the safest play. He's going to check the discard pile to see, alright, what have you gone through? Are there any Ho-Ohs in there? Is there anything I have to worry about? And looks like he will retreat to his Bouffalant. And then he's just going to Gold Breaker for 2 prizes here. Now this is going to be extremely close down the finish here. What does Scott draw off his card here? Oh, an N. That could be big. He's going to catcher up the Mewtwo. And we're probably going to see him N. But it's going to be tough for him to really do anything still. What this is going to do is force Steven to have a switch or a double colorless to retreat. And if he doesn't, that Mewtwo is going to be stuck there for a while. And if it's stuck there long enough, I mean, eventually Scott is going to power up that Tornadus EX and hit for 10 damage and win the game. So that's all it comes down to, really. And oh, he draws a Lightning and a Bianca. So that is such a huge draw off of those 2 cards. That's crazy. So Steven really needs to draw a switch. He's just trying to see, alright, how many catchers and stuff have you gone through? Scott looks like he does have a couple left. Let's see, there's 2 catchers in the discard pile. Are those his only 2 in there? Oh, there's 4 in there. Uh-oh. So, wow. Yeah, pretty much everything is gone for Scott. This is really bad. I think he just overextended and ran out of resources this game. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how he wins anymore unless Steven just does not draw a switch or a double colorless. It's pretty much all over. If that Mewtwo returns to the bench, it's really all there is to it. So I didn't get to see what Steven drew from his 2 cards. He might not have drawn them yet. Let's see. Okay, so he draws us 2. Looks like 2 Charons. It's gonna be close, folks. It really just all comes down to what he draws, and I'm sure he's got at least 3 double colorless left. I would imagine he's probably got a couple switches left, but it all comes down to this one turn. And it looks like Scott decides to attach to his Terrakion. I'm not sure why. And oh, there's a recycle. So if he flips heads on this, he can just grab a switch. And he got it. So here we go. He probably just wants a switch here. And then he'll draw that off the chair and he'll just go to his Bouffalant. It'll be safe. And there we go. Yeah, he grabs the switch. Puts it on top of his deck. And he'll draw it for 3. That is pretty much going to seal up this game, I would think. I don't see what else Scott has left unless he plays Recycle of his own. And we see a Gold Breaker. It's going to do 120 damage. Now, he could pull off some crazy play with a couple energy switches, or an energy switch, a switch, and a fighting, I guess. But no luck there. And I guess he can Super Scoop up. That is something he could do. But wow, I think Steven's got this, but you never know. Here's the Super Scoop up. And this could be a huge flip. Heads, okay, wow. Yeah, if he got tails, Steven just would have catchered and won the game. But now it's not that easy. It looks like Ho-Oh might come up. And then he could Rainbow Burn for 60 if he uses the energy switch. Which is kind of risky. I might have just used Terrakion, but then again, Aspertia City Gym, Aspertia. The A City Gym that gives you plus 20 colorless hit points would prevent Terrakion from really doing anything against Bouffalant. And yeah, this is just going to be a struggle. It's strange to me that this is going to happen like this, but it looks like Steven's going to end up winning this game. I mean, he's just counting all the resources. This normally doesn't happen, but I think this, I mean, just like all 4 Super Scoop-Ups are gone at this point. 4 Double Call-Ups are gone. 4 Catchers are gone. What is left? And I guess Scott is just going to pass here instead of using Rainbow Burn. That's also a weird play. And he's going to Cheren for 3 here on Steven's turn. And I think he's just going to Gold Breaker. And then next turn he can just catch her for the win. I don't know what else there's left to do. So Bouffalant is playing a huge role in this match. Just so good against EXs. Goldbreaker is super strong, does 60 plus 62 EXs, and you can just see how good it is here. And he actually decides to catch her out that Ho-Oh EX. I don't think he should have done that. You should just save that. That might give Scott a chance to come back here if he has a switch or something like that. Also, he draws a Ho-Oh with his top deck, so he could Ultra Ball and then get a Rebirth off this turn. I really don't like that play, using the catcher there. If you're Steven, just hold on to that. You can just catch her next turn for the game. I don't know how many he has left, but hold on to the catcher. Just take the win next turn. That's all there is to it. But it's still going to be tough. Looks like there are, there's at least 1 energy switch left in Scott's deck, but there are no energy left. So I don't know what his plan is. He does have a switch in there, but if he plays his Bianca, he's just going to deck out, so he has to play his N. So this is it. He needs to draw his last switch, otherwise he loses the game. He cannot move his Ho-Oh, and it's game over. So there's 5 cards left. He needs the switch out of his 5, and he whiffs it, so that's going to be the game. There's nothing he can do now. And he extends his hand, and Stephen Clark will win the first game here in the top 4 of the Greenwood Indiana City Championship. That was a really close back and forth game. A really nice comeback there from Stephen, who just kind of played intelligently, saw what was the situation, saw how many resources his opponent had used, and just said, you know what? I think I'm safe. I know you're going to run out of stuff eventually. You don't have any more options to catcher me, and that's just all that happened. So, an unexpected result there with how that game started off, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Steven wins the first game, and then we're going to get set up here for game number 2. Welcome back, everyone, to game number 2 from the Greenwood Indiana City Championship. We're just getting set up here between Scott Lawler and Stephen Clark. And Scott lost the first game in this best 2 out of 3 series. So he will choose who gets to go first, and obviously that will be him. So he's going to start off with Terrakion, and then looks like he drew the Tornadus EX. He's going to Ultra Ball away a Ho-Oh and a Super Scoop Up, which is pretty nice. You know, you'd like to get the Ho-Oh in the discard pile as soon as possible. You know, it's one of the few cards that, you know, you want to actually put in the discard pile. You know, you do want to put energy in the discard pile for most decks. For example, Electric, you want to get energy in the discard pile. For Dynamotor, Darkrai, you want to get dark energy in the discard pile for Dark Patch. And Ho-Oh, you want to get energy in the discard for Rebirth. But there's no other Pokemon that you want to put in the discard pile. Ho-Oh is the only thing that can bring itself out of the discard pile. It's a neat little mechanic, and it fits its character well. You know, it's a Phoenix, Rebirth, comes back to life, all of that good stuff. So we do see Scott will not be able to attack on the first turn. He does not have a double colorless in hand. He does have a Super Scoop Up if he wants to do that, but I don't think he really wants to. He'll save that for another time if he can. And he's going to attach to the Tornadus EX and simply pass. Steven's going to start with a Landorus EX, which is probably not what he wants to use in this matchup. Landorus, of course, is not good against Tornadus because of the fighting resistance. Hammerhead does a measly 10 damage to a Tornadus EX when it's active. But he will be able to just hit it for 30 on the bench with Hammerhead, since that does not apply resistance to bench Pokemon, or weakness. So he's got that going for him, at least. Scott, all this is going to come down to his Super Scoop Up flip, I think. If he gets heads, that'll be huge. He can pick up the Terrakion, send up Tornadus, and then start attacking. And he should be in great shape. If he gets tails, he might not be able to move that Terrakion out of the active spot. And if that happens, he's probably in some trouble, honestly. The more turns Steven gets to set up his board, the worse off Scott's going to be. Looks like that die rolls off the table, bumps our camera a little bit too. I apologize, we do have some sort of weird camera angle here where it's kind of a diagonal, but we can work with it. We did get a tails on the Super Scoop Up. That's a big flip. Now he's going to need a switch here or a Super Scoop Up to actually get an attack off this turn. So that's not good, but he does draw a switch. In fact, he draws several. So it's all going to be okay. He's going to be able to blow through for 60 here. Now this isn't actually that great. Sure, you can do 60 damage, but it really doesn't impact any of your math when you think about it. And what I mean by that is you can't do 60 and then 100 to knock out an EX. Landorus says 180. So really the only thing that blow through does is make it so that if they attach an Eviolite, they won't survive 2 blow-throughs, which is not very good. So even though you do 60 here, I suppose you could do 62 more times to get a knockout, but it's going to be a 3-hit knockout no matter what. So blow-through is actually not that good against EXs. It's good against, those dinky little Pokemon like Squirtles, Tynamos, that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's just kind of like Landorus' attack isn't very good against EXs either. Hammerhead's just doing 30. It's good against, fighting weak Pokemon that can be knocked out, like Tynamo. Poor little Tynamo gets picked on a lot, but yeah, these attacks are not very good against EXs. They can set up maybe for bigger attacks later, but in Tornadus' case, really doesn't do much. Now Steven, he played a Skyla for a Bouffalant. That is not allowed. You have to grab a trainer. So looks like he's gonna grab a switch instead. He must have an Ultra Ball, or okay, he has a computer search in his hand. Okay, that makes more sense. So he's going to computer search for the Bouffalant and then grab a switch. If he has an energy switch, he can actually get a turn 2 Gold Breaker. That is going to be huge. That's going to be really tough to deal with if you're Scott. And he plays the switch. And yeah, he's got it. Wow. And yeah, this is going to put Scott in a very bad position. It's going to bring this down to Super Scoop Ups, I would think. And he's going to hit that Tornadus EX for 120. I don't know how Scott responds to this. He'll probably just attach to his bench Tornadus EX. And then he can blow through this turn for 40. He's actually going to switch to his other Tornadus EX. And Bouffalant is a very, very, very efficient attacker against Tornadus EX. There is pretty much no situation where Tornadus EX comes out on the winning end against a Bouffalant. I mean, if they just trade hits, then the guy that only gives up 1 prize and survives obviously is going to be on the winning end. So that's that's one of the downsides of Tornadus EX. It is just not good against Bouffalant. It does not match up well at all. But maybe we'll see something happen with Scott here. He does have an energy switch and a Super Scoop Up, so this could be a big heads here. And looks like that's a tails. The 6 is the other side. And he shakes his fist in anger. But now, yeah, I guess he just hits for 80 with Power Blast. He could do 40, but then that opens up a play for Steven to drop an Eviolite, which he does not want to have happen. So he's just going to Power Blast for 80, and I gotta say, I love Steven's position at this point. Everything is going his way. He could catch out that Tornadus EX on the bench, but I actually think he's better off just hitting the active for 120. Just have 2 EXs on board that are softened up, and especially the one that has energy on it. I think that would be his best route here. Just hit the active for 120, power up a Mewtwo or something, and go from there. Maybe even power up another Bouffalant if you can get access to that. Knocking out the benched Tornadus EX also opens you up to be retaliated from Terrakion. So, I would not catch her if you have one here. I just hit the active for 120. Well, we'll see what he does. He's got a Skyla in hand. Could use that for any number of things. I don't think he's played a supporter yet, so if he's going to play one, he should. If he doesn't have another supporter in his hand, he should probably just grab one. And yep, he's going for a Juniper. I might consider N here instead, because it looks like he's got a lot of plus powers in his hand, but that's okay. He's just going to go for the Juniper. Decides drawing cards is better. And yeah, like I said, I think Steven is in a dominant position at this point. He's just going to have so much damage on Scott's board. And if you're Scott, you cannot be feeling good about this. It's really just going to come down to, can I hit super scoop up flips? And he's already used 2. So he's going to have 2 left at most. But those are going to be what changes the game here. And looks like we're going to just see 2 plus powers come down. I guess he's just going to get rid of those while he can. Just in case he gets end, I suppose. He just says, alright, I'm just going to get rid of these. I probably need to do this anyway. He might need a 1 plus power to knock out with X-Ball. Actually, I don't know. I probably would have just used 1 plus power there if I were Steven. Probably doesn't make a difference, but I would hold on to 1 just in case. Because you don't really need to play both there. We do see a Juniper from Scott. He's going to discard a Ho-Oh. So he's got a couple in the discard pile now. He's going to draw a fresh 7 cards. He also attached to his active. He has a Tool Scrapper and a Catcher, but I don't think he wants to use that. He should just take out this Bouffalant while he can. And also interesting that he did attach to the active. I'm not sure why Scott attached to his active Tornadus EX. He could have just used Blow Through for the knockout and then use that energy attachment on something else. So a little bit of a confusing play there. Maybe he just didn't realize what was going on. He could just blow through for 40. Even though Bouffalant has 120 hit points because the Aspertia City Gym, it would still do enough to knock it out. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. He has a Catcher. He's contemplating that. Yep, he decides to go for the Landorus. Maybe just trying to pick off some cheap prizes there. Soften up the Landorus while he can, just because he knows that Bouffalant will always just kind of be an easy knockout at this point. But I don't know. Kind of a strange move. So now Steven's going to drop a bunch of stuff. And Juniper for 7. He's obviously hoping for a switch here. And it does not look like he got it. Uh-oh. That could be a problem. If he has a Catcher, I suppose he would just Catcher something out and then just use Hammerhead. Probably just Catcher out Terrakion and use Hammerhead 30 and 30 to one of the Tornadus EXs. And we could see some point Hammerhead with another Landorus EX coming into play with all this damage on the field. Let's see, there's 140 on the active Tornadus EX. I believe there's 140 on the bench one too. Can't quite see what the other die there is, but at least 120, at least 130 because there's 3 dice on it. But we'll see. Now Steven Ultra Ball's away 2 ends, which is a weird play. He's probably going to want to use one of those next turn, so I'm confused on why he's just dumping supporters. He must have a lot of other good cards in his hand. Or maybe just has a lot of supporters in his hand. I'm not too sure what that's all about. And we're going to see, yep, a Catcher onto Terrakion. This is a nice play. He's going to hit Terrakion for 30, and then, you know, if Scott doesn't have a switch or hit a super scoop up here, he's going to be in some trouble. He's going to lose a Tornadus EX. Uh-oh. Is that a knockout? Let's see. I don't think that was a knockout. The Aspertia City Gym should have prevented that, if I'm not mistaken. It should have 20 hit points left. I don't know. Maybe they overlooked that. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll ignore that this happened. And wow, 2 tails for the rebirth. That is annoying, for sure. So Scott's just going to energy switch up to the active, and he will be able to retaliate for a knockout here. He's got a Tool Scrapper. He could discard 2 Eviolites, and he makes the right decision, discarding them from the Pokemon that are going to be knocked out here. So he does play Tool Scrapper, and he's going to Bianca for 3 at this point, and he's actually not in a terrible position. He's got a Super Scoop Up. If he can remove that damage off the Tornadus EX, it'll be huge, and he does. That's a game changer, folks. That is 130 or 140 damage off of the board, and a Tornadus EX has now got no damage on it when it was pretty much on its last legs there before. So Steven's just going to put up Mewtwo. This is a pretty risky move. If he had a plus power, he could just Gold Breaker for the knockout, but he decides to go with Mewtwo. He might only have a double colorless, and if that's the case, I guess, yeah, he's just going to switch to the other one. He knows that it could just be an X-Ball and knockout, but he has to waste another switch there. It's unfortunate, but he will take a prize here, go down to 3 prizes. Losing that Terrakian's not a big deal, because now Steven still has to knock out 2 EXs to win the game. This is still a very, very close game. That Super Scoop Up changed everything. If that Tornadus EX had a bunch of damage on it, I don't think we would have seen Scott win this game, but now he's certainly got a chance to win it, and we'll see what happens. He's going for the Mewtwo. This is obviously a risky move. I mean, sure, he can get an X-Ball knockout here if he draws the right cards, but if he doesn't, or even if he does, and then Steven just responds with another X-Ball, I gotta think Steven's gonna be the one winning this game. It just seems way too likely. He has got a big advantage this game. So we're going to see a Rebirth. There's a ton of energy in there and a couple of Ho-Ohs too. So we're going to get 3 energy out here with Ho-Oh. He might just go for another Rebirth, honestly. Get some more energy out there. And we got double colorless. I think he's got an energy switch as well. So he just needs a switch to pull off this X-Ball knockout. Well, the problem is that Steven can just get an energy and then X-Ball in return, and then I don't think Scott's in a very good position after that. From what I've seen, he only runs 1 Mewtwo, so he won't really have anything to follow up after that one gets knocked out. So this is an inherently risky move here from Scott. He's going to, looks like, if he's going to Juniper, he might as well just Ultra Ball. But I guess not. He's just going to Juniper for 7. Let's see what he gets. He got an energy switch, but nothing else really. I guess he can Power Blast this turn. Didn't think about that. He has an Ultra Ball. He could get rid of another Ho-Oh and discard an energy or an N. Probably an N, yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't Ultra Ball before the Juniper and just get another Ho-Oh in the discard pile. That was strange, but it ended up working out for him. He actually does not have any Pokemon left in his deck, so all he has to work with is this Tornadus EX, that Mewtwo EX, and the Ho-Oh. That's it. That's all he's got, folks. It's coming down to this. So here is a Power Blast. It's going to be for 100 damage. So he's going to get a 2-hit knockout on the Mewtwo no matter what. He gets Tail, so he has to discard the Fire. It's 100 on this Mewtwo now. And Steven, I guess he's in okay shape. It depends on what he does here. If he just X-Balls, I think he can just kind of win with Bouffalant. You know, he's got another one in his hand. He can just start to power up another one. A double colorless. And a plus power. If he has a catcher, he can actually knock out that bench Mewtwo, and I think he'll win for sure if he has all those cards. I don't see the catcher, though. That would have been a huge, huge, huge play. And, he actually decides to power up Mewtwo instead. And he's going to push up his Bouffalant. I don't know how I feel about this play. I think he had another Bouffalant in his hand. I think you're better off just going with Gold Breakers from here on out. Not putting this to a Mewtwo war. Because if you do that, you can just very easily lose the game. Just look at what Scott has. Just like that, Scott's gonna come back here, I think. He's gonna end. Even if Steven gets a knockout with his own Mewtwo back there, it doesn't matter. Scott can just, use anything, honestly. Ho-Oh can knock out that Mewtwo. Tornadus can knock out that Mewtwo. It doesn't matter. He's only got to take 4 prizes, and that's all it takes for him to win this game. Just knocking out 2 Mewtwo's will win the game. So putting that double colorless on the Mewtwo was actually a big mistake from Steven. Just kind of opening the door for Scott to make a comeback here. It was not the best idea. And now he's going to go for another rebirth. Looks like we had a heads. He's going to get a Ho-Oh out with 3 energy here. Yeah, I think Scott might have just made a huge comeback here. The door opened a little bit when Steven benched that Mewtwo and put 3 energy on it instead of using another Bouffalant. And now, it's all starting to go downhill. This is just how quickly things can go downhill when you have Mewtwo's out there. And here comes Mewtwo. Gonna see an X-Ball for 200. And Steven cannot attack with that Mewtwo. He just loses the game if he does. And Bouffalant's also not going to be that great. So he really needs to get another Mewtwo out here. And then also he needs to end because we see Scott as a computer search and he can just get a catcher for the win. So I don't really know. Looks like Steven has an Ultra Ball and a double colorless. So, well, he actually can't even X-Ball. He can only do 160 with an X-Ball. So I don't know what his plan is. I guess he could catcher out Tornadus EX and knock it out with Gold Breaker. Yeah, I guess that's what he's going to have to do. Catcher and Gold Breaker. He's going to go down to 1 prize. But now Scott's got the catcher. It's game over. So he made a huge comeback here, and we're going to go to game 3, folks. So Scott Lawler, he hangs in there. He just didn't give up. It looked like things were down, but he fought back. Steven gave him 1 opening, and he took it. And that's all it takes in this format, folks. Just one little mistake can open up the door for your opponent to come back. So we are going to head into a game 3. These guys are going to get set up, and we'll be right back for this third and deciding game here in the top 4. Alright, here we go with game 3. The deciding game here in the top 4. And we will see who moves on to the finals. Looks like we have a little bit of a mishap there with Steven accidentally revealing a prize there, so he's just going to shuffle them up and whatnot. I don't really know what happened there, but whatever. We're getting started here. We got a Landorus EX versus, a Mewtwo EX, and that is probably not what Scott wanted to start with against a deck that runs 3 Mewtwo's, a bunch of plus powers, and some recycles. Unfortunately for Steven, he just does not have anything. He really doesn't have anything at all. It's really a bummer. Excuse me. He doesn't have a switch, I don't think. And he just Ultra Balls for a Mewtwo and passes. That's not good at all. He has 2 double colorless in hand, and he decides not to attach either of those. And geez, Scott has a 3 Ho-Oh hand. We'll see what he decides to do. If he, oh no, he is going for it. He's going for an X-Ball. Oh, if Steven draws a switch, he just wins the game. That's it. That's it, folks. He's got plus power, double colorless in hand. If he draws a switch, the game is over. A switch or a Skyla, he just wins the game. Oh, draws a plus power. So Scott will survive. Oh, wow. That is really lucky for him. And he is just going for the Mewtwo. He doesn't care at all. He's just got 4 energy on this Mewtwo. I guess if he gets a catcher and an energy switch, he could catcher out the bench Mewtwo for Steven and then get a knockout on it. But he does not draw the catcher, so that's not going to happen. And now he's just going to Ultra Ball for a Tornadus EX. He's now got 3 energy in the discard pile and 3 Ho-Ohs. So this is really the best start he could hope for. He dodged that bullet there for that 1 turn. It could have just been game over. Steven moves on to the finals just like that. X-Ball. That's it. But now, Scott's pretty well off. He's got Ho-Oh's at his disposal whenever he needs them. He's just going to get one out here with 3 energy on it. So he can really just do whatever he wants. He could just retreat if he wants to, and then Rainbow Burn for 80. It's probably the safer play. He might just keep the Mewtwo up there in X-Ball. But it looks like, yeah, he is in great shape at this point. He's also got the Tornadus EX down. And, alright, he's just going to X-Ball once again. So if Steven just draws... There we go, there's a switch. This could be a really big turning point. Like we've seen in the previous matches, I don't think Scott plays more than one Mewtwo, so this is going to be rough for him to respond to this. And we can see Steven's hand is loaded with plus powers and double colorless, so if Scott decides to just attack with Ho-Oh here, he could be in some trouble. Now let's see. He's got an N and a Juniper. If he... I mean, he knows that Steven's hand has been bad this whole time, but he actually decides to N, and that's going to save him in this game. Wow. And we can just see there's 3 plus powers and a double colorless in there. That Ho-Oh was going down. So that was a clutch N there from Scott. Kind of a counterintuitive play, you know. You see your opponent has not done anything with his hand the whole time, and you still N him. But it actually ends up saving you the game. So I guess just good instincts there from Scott. And we'll see what happens from here. Now it's going to be tough for Steven to respond. But he does still have Mewtwo against Ho-Oh, which is a great matchup for Mewtwo pretty much every time. As long as Scott doesn't hit too many Super Scoop-Ups, I still got to think Steven's in a good position. We're going to be tied up after this Rainbow Burn. Here we go. Landorus is going down to the Ho-Oh. And let's see. Looks like we got a Juniper, a Charon, 2 Fighting, and an Energy Search. I think we'll probably just see Steven Juniper and go for it. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Because he knows just the double colorless, double plus power play is so strong that he can just end up winning the game if he gets that. But nope, he just gets... Oh, he doesn't even get an energy attachment this turn. That is pretty bad. And he's just gonna... Oh, he does. He gets a double colorless on his Mewtwo. Okay, that's a lot of damage. That's 140 damage. Now that's big, because that's gonna allow him to Hammerhead whenever he wants. And just hit that Ho-Oh for 30 and just take 2 prizes. He doesn't even need a catcher for that. So unless Scott can get a... Well, what does he need? He's gonna need a Super Scoop Up. Unless he gets that, he's just going to be in some trouble. And let's see, he's got a switch, 2 energy switches. So he's going to be able to Power Blast this turn no matter what. He can actually just catch her as well if he wants to, but like I said, that Ho-Oh is just a Hammerhead away from being knocked out. Just 30 damage is all it takes. It's only got 160 hit points. And we could just see that Ho-Oh go down, the Tornadus is going to get 10 damage on it, and all of a sudden, Steven's going to be down to 2 prizes if he can pull this off. So we see an energy search from Scott. I guess he didn't grab anything. I don't know if he's attached this turn or not. And he plays an N. So he's going to end Steven down to 4 again. Really, Scott needs Super Scoop Up. That's all there is to it. He needs a Super Scoop Up this turn, or else he is going to be in a world of hurt. Steven gets the 4. He gets the Fighting off of his 4 cards, and I don't see a Super Scoop Up. So this is really bad for Scott, and really good for Steven, honestly. It really is good. And we have a Power Blast for 100. I really like Steven's position at this point. He just has to play a Fighting here. He realizes the situation, and he's going to end. He's going to put down that Bouffalant as well. And yeah, it's just going to take that Hammerhead. And he's already got a Mewtwo with 4 energy on it. He might realize at this point that Scott only plays 1 Mewtwo. If he does, he can just say, alright, I can attack with my Mewtwo. I don't have to be scared at all. I'm not getting X-Balled. It's just not happening. I already knocked out your Mewtwo, which is a great position to be in. And I think we'll just see him Hammerhead for 10 on the active, 30 to the Ho-Oh, knock that out. And then it's just a 2-hit knockout for the game. X-Balls. That's it. 2 X-Balls and the game ends. So there we go. There's 10 to the active. Jeez. And, oh, whoa. Looks like I was wrong. There's another Mewtwo in that deck. Okay. Okay. I have not seen that this entire match, but I guess I was completely wrong, and we do have 2 Mewtwo's in this deck. Alright, that makes more sense. So now Steven has a right to be worried. I guess you can't assume that your opponent only plays 1 Mewtwo, huh? Even though you haven't seen more than 1 throughout the series, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I very well could be wrong. But, man, this is going to be rough. Going to have a Power Blast. It's going to do 100, knock out this Landorus EX. And he's going to discard the energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no way he can really knock out this Tornadus. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I guess if they got heads, that was a big Power Blast flip, huh? If he would have gotten heads, there's 3 energy. There's 4 on Mewtwo, that's 140 damage. Then it just would have been a double colorless. Game over. So this could still be, alright, a double colorless and 2 plus powers can actually just end the game right here. But who knows? I guess Steven, he's got an N or Juniper, and he decides to just go all in for the cards he needs to win the game, and he whiffs. So that is not good. I probably, if I were him, I would have just used the N and just kind of accepted fate, whatever it was. Then again, Scott did not play a supporter, but he did get 2 prizes. Yeah, I probably would have ended there if I'm Steven. You know, you don't have to just win this turn. I mean, if you could just win in 2 hits, you win the game. But he went for it. It's not going to pay off. I don't think. There's a Mewtwo in Scott's hand. And we're probably just going to see Scott get his Mewtwo out and win the game. And, you know, I got to say, throughout the series, I felt like Steven was in control pretty much the whole time. And now, it's all over. As long as Scott gets 1 energy, this game is over. He's going to draw his 7 cards, an energy or an energy switch, and the game ends. Here we go. And he gets it. There you go. Scott Lawler is going to move on to the finals over Steven Clark in a crazy series. I really didn't think Scott was going to win, but he pulled it out in the end. Well played by both these guys, but Scott, in the end, he's more resilient, and he's going to survive here at the Greenwood, Indiana City Championship. So, thank you for watching, everybody. I'm Pooka here from the Top Cut. We'll have the finals here shortly, and I will see you guys next time.